Alright, hey guys, welcome to the Chapter 3 close read and analysis. Not much to really say. I mean, again, really straightforward plot-wise, right? So we'll just get right into it. In Chapter 3, Nick attends one of Gatsby's parties. Remember, Nick lives right next door to Gatsby on West Egg, which is opposite East Egg. Just a little reminder about the symbolism between those two is West Egg represents new money, or the western, the western coastline of America, the newer coastline, I guess, and East Egg represents old money, or when you consider where America was first settled, it was the East Coast. So West Egg, new money, has this party. We've seen two different parties already, if you really think about it. The old money East Egg party of Daisy, Tom, and Jordan, their tea get together, very formal, very quiet evening. Then the kind of rambunctious city lifestyle of Myrtle, the impoverished. And now we get into one of Gatsby's parties, and it's interesting because Nick is one of the only people to have received an invitation. So when he arrives, he's not sure why Gatsby invited him. He's kind of embarrassed, wandering around.
My invitation. Oh, just my throat. You don't need to know the guy. Certainly my invitation.
And he runs into Jordan Baker from Chapter 1. Remember, Daisy's friend. She's kind of this nationally recognized golfer. He latches onto her as, most people will do at social functions where they don't know anyone. You kind of latch onto that one person, They hang out together for a while. They make their way to the library. There's an interesting scene there that we're going to talk about. They run into this guy called the Owl-Eyed Man. I'll explore him in just a moment. And then finally, they meet Gatsby. Before he meets Gatsby, Nick hears all these rumors about Gatsby, kind of insinuating really negative things about him.
A caravanserai of billionaire playboy publishers and their blonde nurses. Heiresses comparing inheritances on Gatsby's beach. My boss, Walter Chase, losing money at the roulette tables. Gossip columnists alongside gangsters and governors exchanging telephone numbers. Film stars, Broadway directors, morality protectors, high school defectors, and Ewing Klipspringer, dubious descendant of Beethoven. You know where I might find the host, Mr. Gatsby? I live just next door.
Gatsby? I've never seen Mr. Gatsby, sir. Why, no one has.
But when Nick finally does meet Gatsby, he realizes this guy's kind of nice, and he's got a nice smile, and he's, just interesting. After meeting Gatsby, Nick leaves. That's the end of Chapter 3. So let's take a closer look at some of these big moments in the text. So again, there's all these rumors about who Gatsby might be, and at no point does Gatsby interject into these conversations to correct people. It almost seems like he's enjoying the mystique that has surrounded his name, and maybe he's trying to create a sense of mystery about himself for whatever reason. And that is brought to a head when Jordan and Nick go into the library. They run into this guy who's referred to as the Owl-Eyed Man. This guy is completely drunk, but he says some pretty poignant stuff. "What do you think?" he demanded impetuously. "About what?" He waved his hand toward the bookshelves. "About that. As a matter of fact, you needn't bother to ascertain. I ascertained. They're real." "The books?" He nodded. "Absolutely real. Have pages and everything. I thought they'd be a nice durable cardboard. Matter of fact, they're absolutely real. Pages and... Here, let me show you." Taking our skepticism for granted, he rushed to the bookcase and returned with Volume 1 of the Stoddard Lectures. "See?" he cried triumphantly. "It's a bona fide piece of printed matter. It fooled me. This fellow's a regular Belasco. It's a triumph. What thoroughness. What realism. Knew when to stop, too. Didn't cut the pages. But what do you want? What do you expect?" There's a couple allusions in there that are lost on you because you're not from the 1920s and 1930s. But David Belasco, who the Allied man refers to Gatsby as like a regular Belasco, is he was a set designer. This guy, in his description of Gatsby, is alluding to someone who's very famous for creating elaborate sets. And he says, look at these books, they're real. I thought they would be cardboard, right? What is communicated non-verbally about you if you were to own a gigantic library? Obviously, one, you're rich, right? But two, you would insinuate that you've read all those books, right? Why else would you own them? And so you would come across as deeply knowledgeable. Now, the thing about Gatsby is, as the Allied man picks up each of these books, he says, look, they're not cut. Another kind of historical reference there, back then you'd have to kind of cut the books open, in a sense, right? And so it was like breaking the seal, and that's how you knew a book was new or pre-owned, I guess. None of the books have had their pages cut open, which tells us that Gatsby has never read any of these books. So why does he own so many? Well, you know, we answered that already. He wants to come across as someone who's deeply intelligent. Letting all these rumors fly wildly about him, he's articulating mystery, but also kind of cultivating a specific narrative about himself, that he's intelligent, all this stuff, right? What is Gatsby trying to do? Why is he putting on this show? Nick runs into Gatsby not too long after.
I'm stealing her away, Caraway.
A jazz history of the world and accompanying fireworks!
Come on, Nick.
Look around you. Rich girls don't marry poor boys. She's mine.
Your face is familiar. Weren't you in the 3rd Division during the war?
Oh, yes, the 9th Battalion.
I was in the 7th.
Excuse me.
I knew you looked familiar. Having a good time, old sport?
Oh, the whole thing's incredible. I live just next door. He sent me an actual invitation. Seems I'm the only one. I still haven't met Mr. Gatsby. No one's met him. They say he's 3rd cousin to the Kaiser and 2nd cousin to the devil.
I'm afraid I haven't been a very good host, old sport. You see, I'm Gatsby.
His smile was one of those rare smiles that you may come across 4 or 5 times in life. It seemed to understand you and believe in you, just as you would like to be understood and believed in.
Remember, Daisy had this trait, right, in chapter 1, where when she spoke, Nick was kind of allured by her voice, and what she said captivated him. And he realized when she stopped speaking how insincere she was being. Gatsby has a trait very similar to that. Let me read this to you. As they first talked, Gatsby smiled understandingly, much more than understandingly. It was one of those rare smiles with a quality of eternal reassurance in it that you may come across 4 or 5 times in life. It faced or seemed to face the whole external world for an instant and then concentrated on you with an irresistible prejudice in your favor. It understood you just as far as you wanted to be understood, believed in you as you would like to believe in yourself, and assured you that it had precisely the impression of you that at your best you hoped to convey. Precisely at that point it vanished, and I was looking at an elegant young roughneck a year or 2 over 30 whose elaborate formality of speech just missed being absurd. Sometime before he introduced himself, I'd got a strong impression that he was picking his words with care. Gatsby's introduced to us as this magnetic person, right? Like Daisy, he brings people in closer to him, and it's not his voice that does it, it's his smile. The way he smiles at you, it just makes you feel like, as it says, he understood you as far as you wanted to be understood, believed in you as you would like to believe in yourself. He just, when he smiles, it's one of those eternally reassuring things, right? So Gatsby's smile is magical almost, in a sense, right? Nick says when the smile fades from Gatsby's face, he realizes how ridiculous this guy actually kind of sounds. His accent seems fake, and he realizes hey, maybe this guy was it sounds like he was picking his words with care. So he's very careful again about articulating a specific image he wants people to have of him. Nick specifically, for some reason. At one point in the party, Gatsby pulls Jordan away, and we don't know why. And when Jordan finally returns, she has to leave, and she says, you know, I can't tell you what I talked to Gatsby about, but he'll reveal it to you soon. I'll talk to you about it soon. The only other impression we get of Gatsby is that he's trying very, very hard to impress Nick, right? He continues to offer him these favors like, hey man, you want to go up in my hydroplane? You want to see my car, etc. As many of you have seen, if you started chapter 4 already, Gatsby's main intent throughout these next two, really chapters 3 and 4, is to impress Nick. Now, what is it that Nick has that Gatsby wants? Like, why does he want to impress this random nobody living next to him?
I expected him to be...
Old and sad?
Yes. Young men don't just drift coolly out of nowhere and buy a palace on Long Island.
He told me once he was an Oxford man. However, I don't believe it.
Why not?
I don't know. I just don't believe he went there.
Could be because, oh, he's my neighbor and I want to show him I'm a good guy. Maybe. Or it could be something else, right? I would just point you again to think about what Gatsby was doing when we first saw him. Again, when we first saw Gatsby, he was standing at the end of his dock, reaching out towards a green light. And we don't know what that symbolizes yet. There's some really great stuff in here about Nick's narrative style, about what he believes about himself, and, you know, his continued the continued development of his relationship with Jordan Baker. The two of them really start to get really quite close, flirt with each other all the time, hang out all the time, and so a relationship is certainly burgeoning there. But that brings us to the end of chapter 3. So pretty straightforward. Really, the main thing we saw here was Gatsby's parties are incredible. No one knows anything about this guy, and he really wants to impress Nick for some reason. So enjoy chapter 4, and I'll see you guys back on Monday to discuss that.